Okay, so they give us the square root function, and we did this in the last video, but I'm going to try to write it out a little bit more for you here. So this is going to be part A. They want us to take s of t is equal to the square root of t, and then they want us to reflect it vertically. So that's going to mean, let's call it v of t is equal to the opposite of the square root of t. Now I'm going to show you the table of values here. Originally, if you had t for an input and s of t for an output, if you were graphing that toolkit function, the square root function, you could put in 0 and 1 and 4 and maybe 9 and get out 0, 1, 2, and 3. And that would look like this. 4, 2, and then 9, 3. And so you get this function. That is the original s of t. Okay, that doesn't look good. S of t. Now when we go to do v of t, which I kind of am making up that, what I'm calling it here, but this will be the reflection. So I put in t and I get v of t. Then I'm putting in the same 0, 1, 4, and 9, but all of these outputs are going to be the opposite. Now the opposite of 0 is still 0, so it's doing that, but then we'll have -1, -2, -3. Okay, because when you put them in, when you put your input here, you're going to take the square root and then you're going to take the opposite of it. Now when you graph those ordered pairs right here, if you graph those ordered pairs, you're going to have 0, 0, 1, -1, 4, -2, and 9, -3. And so it's coming down here like that. That would be the v of t. Okay? All right, then part B says they want us to reflect it horizontally. So we still have our same, there it goes, we still have this as the original function, s of t. So we can put that back in just to see it. Yeah. Oops, kind of missed that point there, didn't I? Okay, that's still s of t. But when you make your table of values, let's see, we need another letter. Let's call it w of t. It's going to be the opposite of -t. Now, this is interesting because you can't put a negative number in. You can't take the square root of a negative number. So what we have to do is we have to put in the opposite of the original t's that we put in. Now the opposite of 0 is still 0, so this is going to be my t. The opposite of 1 is going to be -1, then I'm going to have a -4 and a -9. My wt, and we can write these out if you want to see it. So, you know, if you put in 0, you're still going to get 0. But if you do the w of -1, that's going to look like the square root of the opposite of -1, which is going to be the square root of 1, which is going to be 1. And then if you put in -4, it's going to be the opposite, the square root of the opposite of -4, which is going to be the square root of 4, which is going to be 2. And then finally the square root of the opposite of -9 is going to be the square root of 9, which is 3. Now when we graph those, so I was doing those, supposed to be doing those in orange, you get 0, 0, -1, 1, -4, 2, and -9, 3. And you get this reflection that's reflecting about the y-axis. We call that a horizontal reflection. So that might help to just tie it all together to make it make a little more sense of it. Now, a quadratic function, you know, you can flip that upside down. You can reflect that about the x-axis. But the basic one, if you're reflecting it about the y-axis, it's still going to look like the parabola, right? Okay, so not all of them show up really clearly when you're reflecting them.